Even though I may have gone through, some crazy things, I'm coming out of it speaking about it, so that way it won't happen to other people.
Kylie, Dancing for the Devil, this documentary is absolutely a roller coaster, as well as what you've personally been through. So first of all, just checking in with how you are today. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm definitely doing way better now than I was when I first came out of the church and the management group. But to this day now, I'm working on a lot of different things, and I'm happy and proud of where I am today.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. Let's go ahead and take it back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your love of dance. When did you first fall in love with the art?
So my mom put me in dance at age 2, and ever since then it stuck. I started competing at age 7. My high school was a performing arts high school, so I was dancing in school, at a studio. I was teaching by age 13. My mom was taking me to dance conventions, and that's how I fell in love with hip hop specifically. And so we were like going to a lot of different cities, like touring with conventions. And I got scholarships for LA, and that's when I was like, all right, it's time to make the move out here and see if I like it. Okay. And so directly after high school, I jumped out here on a plane and took on those scholarships, and then everything fell into place since then.
Talk to me about how you first discovered or found out about Shekinah and 7M.
Yeah, so at the time, my ex-boyfriend was invited to these meetings and Bible studies / dinners, I guess. And I was just really curious about it because my partner at the time was really invested in these meetings. And so eventually I remember I was driving home from teaching one night, sweaty, not in cute clothes, just like whatever. I got a text like, okay, you're invited from my ex-boyfriend. And he said, come to this dinner, come right now as soon as you're done with work. And that was it. And so once I got the invite, I was like, all right, this is my chance to see what this is about. And as soon as I got there, it's a dinner and it's a meeting, and it's made to feel very comfortable. And that's how I, really got into these meetings and found out what Shekinah was about. And yeah, that was the start of it.
And what was Shekinah about? What was it presented to you as?
Yeah. At first, it was presented more as this is just a Bible study. So I really didn't get information on the church with my first few meetings. It was more so about, who am I? What do I do? And then a few meetings later is when I found out, okay, I'm seeing some people are getting invitations to church services, and then some people aren't. And so it's very exclusive, right? And again, it makes me curious. Why aren't I invited to this? And when you're not invited to something, everyone knows you feel the need to be invited, especially when your friends, your boyfriend, right? They're all getting invited. You're wondering, all right, when do I get invited?
Right.
So I keep showing up to these meetings, in hopes that one day I will get invited, so that way I can figure out what the church is about. Then when I was invited to the services, then I, got to realize, okay, this is a church. And again, it seems pretty normal. We were doing Bible studies. I grew up Christian, so I've been in, church, and I love church. I've been searching for a church since I came out to LA. And so this felt like it kind of just came right, onto my path. And seeing all the people, that I'm friends with join really made me feel like, okay, maybe this is where I'm supposed to be.
There's Shekinah, the church, but then there's also the management arm, which is 7M.
Right.
When did you become involved with that?
Yeah, so I was a part of the church for a while before I got invited to be a part of 7M. The management company started with other dancers, and I was not one of those for the come up of it. Later down the line, I would say, maybe a year into my stay with the church and the management is when I got invited to actually participate and, be included in what the management was about.
Explain to me what that working relationship was like then.
7M and the content days and everything, it was great. Like being able to go and shoot videos all day in a nice home, making sure we all have great outfits on, you're with your friends, and you're getting to film, content on a really great camera, like trying to build our social media and things like that. It was awesome. However, there was a lot more behind it that people don't see. And, the songs, the outfits, who you're dancing with, when you get to be included and when you don't. These are all things that really, I guess, were kind of draining to me, because sometimes I wasn't invited. Sometimes I was there, but I was just helping.
Who got to decide who was invited?
The leaders of 7M were the ones who were deciding, who gets to dance and who doesn't, how many videos one person gets to do, how many videos another gets to do. And I personally wasn't one of the dancers who was on the list for a lot of dance videos. It was really hard being, not included fully on those content days. However, they were still fun to be a part of, so that's why I kept trying, to do my best within the church and the management, because I wanted to be included in everything.
And so that's interesting to me that you tried your best in the church
Right.
and the management, as if one
Right.
has to do with the other, right?
Yep.
You would think that's sort of a separation of church and state.
Right.
No pun
Yeah.
intended. Was that not the case?
The business isn't separated from the church. It's all one. And especially, my journey through it. Like, I was going through it because, I was trying my best to make sure I was doing everything correctly. That way I could be included and not discluded. But no matter how hard I tried, I still wasn't one of their top picks.
What did correctly mean for you at that time?
Yeah.
What did you observe and think, if I could just do that, I'd
Right.
probably get more exposure,
Yeah.
more support, more attention?
For me, it was just really like obeying the leaders and what they wanted, and following instructions and following the teachings. And some of those things were hard for me to do because I have a lot going on my own. Like, I am a businesswoman. I teach at many studios. I have my own dance company, and so those are things that they didn't have control over. And they didn't really like that, because being in this group, they're in control. They're the leaders.
Yeah.
And that's, one of the reasons why I wasn't fully included, is because I wasn't taking my hands fully off of everything. Like,
You
those
didn't
were
seem
still
all in.
mine. Right, exactly. It was like, seemed teeter-tottering, which I guess I was, because I wasn't gonna let those things go. But that's what affected me, throughout my journey there.
From what I understand, the controlling nature sometimes of the management company, it got really specific down to what you all were wearing.
Yeah.
Even? Is that true?
Yeah. So when it comes to content, it's not like, okay, Kylie, what do you want to dance to today? What do you want to wear? Who do you want to dance with? And what song do you want to do? Most of the time, it's planned out by the leaders. The songs are thought of in advance. The lineup of who's dancing with who.
So you're just sort of assigned to
Yeah,
whatever.
It's like a full on-set schedule.
Robert obviously provided a lot, right? You guys have the housing to film these videos, the clothing, etc. But he also took a lot. So how did that work? How did that sort of transactional relationship work between how you all were supported to create the videos, but what you had to give in return?
For me, again, it goes back to like obeying and following instructions and leaning on your mentors and, following in their lead. And that is actually where the take comes from, because that's where you are changing your ways to please someone else. The control over myself was what the leaders wanted. They wanted my control over me completely to them. That way then, when I get on set, right, for a content day, or when I get invited to be a part of, a gig they're doing or something, they know that I'm going to do whatever they say. So that's kind of where the take came from. And then, like, as you said, the giving, like, we were in nice mansions filming these videos, and we were filming on a high quality camera. So that's where the giving came in, but the take was something you couldn't see, but something more so that you could feel.
Obviously, you are being provided the resources to produce this content. That takes money.
Right.
Talk to me a little bit about revenue. Were
Yeah.
you all making money? How did it work? Did you have to share it?
So within the church, there's something called 10-10-10 that our mentors wanted us to participate in, which was 10% of your income going to man of God, 10% going to tithes, and 10% going to offering. And
Okay, so what is man of God?
That's the pastor of the church.
Okay, so
directly
10 going
him.
to Robert.
10%.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you look at that, that's already 30%, 10, 10, 10. 30% of your income gone. Then when you look at management fees, and some people are giving more than others, mine was 20%.
Wait, man of God wasn't the management fees?
No, those are all for the church.
Got it.
Yeah. So those are your church fees, I guess, if you want to call it. And then the management fee for any gig you get would be, you know, for instance, like 20% of, you know, you made $2,000 off of a gig. 20% of that's going to management.
So that's potentially 50% gone.
Yeah. So they're getting management, the church fees, and then, you know, something we're taught, which is actually where I struggled a lot, was, you know, not being selfish. Okay. So if you know me, I am not selfish at all. That's just not who I am. But that's something that, while being in the church, I was told often, I'm not giving enough, I'm not doing enough,
Even with potentially up to 50% of anything you earn going right back into it, that wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough, yeah. And so if you didn't want to be selfish, right, you needed to give, or I guess in my case, you should be giving even more.
When it seems that social status or ranking or even like professional opportunity is linked to performance, how much they like me today versus yesterday, like how did that start to feel for you?
That was definitely a battle that I was fighting my entire time there. To feel that for a while is actually one of the reasons why I finally was like, okay, this isn't for me, because I know I'm learning my worth. I really learned, like, I'm doing everything I can. I know who I am as a person. I know that my best is good enough. And if it's not getting recognized, then this isn't my place to be. You know, this isn't my circle.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah.
When that epiphany happened, when you realized, you know what, I know who I am, I know what I'm worth, and this is not it for me. What did that look like? Was leaving easy? Did you lose friends? Were you able to keep them?
Right. So leaving was actually really hard. I was trying to figure out how am I going to do this, because I don't want to leave my friends there. I don't want to leave my boyfriend that was in there, right? But I know if I leave and I go my own way, they're so invested in this, I don't know who's coming with me. You know, I don't know. It was a guessing game. So it actually took me a while to get the courage to up and leave, because I was fighting that battle in my mind.
And how did they react?
A lot of the dancers, a few of the dancers, they all had their own stories too, that we had never even, us in the circle of dancers, we didn't know about it.
Never talked about it.
So yeah, because everything's so swept under the rug and, you know, quiet, there was a lot of stories that I didn't know about my good friends in there, and a lot of stories that they didn't know about me. And so once we started communicating and, you know, really having a conversation about our experience in there, we realized, okay, it's not just me. I'm not the only one feeling like this. Like, they're feeling that way too, but we're not comfortable enough to show it, or we're scared, right? That if we say something, you know, we're gonna get treated differently, because that's how it worked.
In February, Melanie and her parents go live on Instagram. Did you see it in real time? When did you see it? What was your initial reaction? Was there a group chat that was just like boop, 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 boop?
Yeah, so for me, when I saw that on Instagram, I was just shocked. I feel like everyone was shocked. All of us, we were just like, whoa, well, it's true, right? These parents, they want to see their child, and there's a lot of isolating that goes on within the group. And so when I saw it, I felt for them, because I had that feeling but wasn't sharing it, of being isolated. So I kind of connected with the video on that level of they're feeling isolated from their family, right? And I was feeling isolated while being in the group. So I totally understood where they were coming from, and it made me, it did open my eyes.
What did the days that followed look like? Did people reach out to you?
Everyone's social media kind of just blew up right then. There was questions, comments, concerns. People were reaching out to friends. I had friends calling me like, hey, what is this? Are you okay? You know, and it just all blew up. So I think it was a crazy time for everyone.
Did you ever feel this is a cult? Like, did that word ever come up in your mind? Or was that something that you started to consider once the news spread like wildfire, once Melanie and her family called it out and essentially said that that's what it was.
Yeah, I think that's actually for me when like the defense mode kicked in, and I was like, no, like I would never be in a cult. Like, no, this is not it. What's everyone talking about? Because that kicked in for me, and I was like, absolutely not. So it didn't ring right away when all that social media was blowing up about it. And addressing the topic and the questions and all that. That wasn't for me when I realized what it was. That was actually, I think that even pushed me more to say, no, that's not what it is. Because when everybody's saying one thing, I didn't want to think that. I didn't want to believe that, because those were my friends. This is my family at the time that we're talking about. So whenever someone says anything negative about you or your family, that defense mode kicks in. And so that's how I felt during that time, was like, no way. What are you guys talking about, But it was when I realized it on my own, in my own timing, when, things actually started affecting my mental, when I was like fully mentally drained and clocking out and, isolated more. That's when I realized, okay, this is not what I thought it was.
Right. Miranda's family members fully believe that she has been brainwashed. Did you ever feel, and when you look back at your experience, do you ever feel like that was the case for you?
Yeah, I definitely feel like the amount of control over each person is enough to make you not think like yourself anymore. You're thinking, again, of pleasing everyone and following what's being taught. And so I agree, when you're in there, you may not realize that you're not thinking like yourself, but when you're under training like that and you're under guidance like that, you can't help but to, fall into that category of not thinking like yourself and being, brainwashed.
The big ask in Shekinah was to die to your family. What does that mean?
Okay, so die to your family means you need to cut them off. They are not going to help you with your journey right now. You need to focus on you and your journey with God and the people who are going to help you build, which in this case wasn't your family. So they're not with you in the church. They're not your mentor, right? They're not your pastor. So are they helping you with your walk with God? The answer was no. So the idea was to cut them off, but it was different for everyone. So for me, I wasn't, instructed to completely do a clean cut and never speak to them again. That wasn't my instruction.
Do you feel like if you gotten to that point where you were rising through the ranks, that would have been the ask, or that maybe would have gotten you farther up the
Yeah, I think if
ladder?
I think if I did that, I would have been looked at differently, and I would have been looked at
better, in
maybe
a more positive light.
Yeah, almost I would say more like Miranda. And again, she was and is put on the pedestal. But I wasn't taking action like that, and I don't think I could ever do that. Like, I had a hard enough time trying to, isolate myself from them a little bit. And
so you did, I was going to ask, did you ever lose touch with your family?
Yeah, I didn't lose complete touch, but I definitely tried to focus more on my mentors at the time and, what the instructions were for me. And so there was, a little push away that I did push them away a little bit, and I'm not proud of it, but it's something I did.
Did they sense something was wrong? Did they wonder?
My family, my friends even, my mom, she got my whole gang back home, on it. And they had group chats. They had Facebook groups.
So Mama was locked in.
She was locked in. Yeah. She was like, you know what? Whenever she comes home, we're going to make her remember, this is your family. And so even, my best friends from dance, when I came home, my mom got all the dance moms, all the dance girls at one of their houses and, had a big dinner. We were watching old dance videos. And I'm not going to lie, it definitely helped because I remember, the whole reason why I started this journey in LA was because of dance. And then watching my dance videos of little Kylie dancing on stage reminded me, I'm in LA for my passion for dance. I'm not in LA to please other people or to try to climb a ladder for, fame and things like that. I'm here to make me happy, and I'm here to dance for me. And so what they were doing worked, and what my mom and friends did back home, supporting and reminding me, it definitely helped. But I know that may not help for everyone also. Like, each person is different, and how they're gonna, come out of a situation like this may not be the way I did. But, in hopes of these interviews and the documentary and, the lawsuit and all of that, it's all for the bigger hope of that people will realize they can use their voice and they can stand up for themselves. And it may look different than me, or it may look different than someone else that they look up to, but their own story is beautiful in their own way.
Absolutely, absolutely. Melanie and Priscilla Lee said that Robert has been doing this for years.
Yeah.
What did you think when you heard about that this wasn't even his first rodeo, that this church had sort of had different iterations in the past?
I was shocked because I knew that the church had been around for a while, but I had no clue that tons of people were in the same situation of me, like wanting to leave, but not knowing how, wanting to stand up for themselves, kind of scared to talk about it, kind of scared to take that leap, right? And so finding out about, these other members that did that as well, that I never knew about it, was actually like comforting for me, because I realized, okay, like everything is gonna be all right. They did it, I can do it, and other people can do it too. So it was definitely comforting, but then it was also disgusting, because that was my first thought is, okay, we're not the only ones, and this wasn't the only way, right? Like, there's different methods and different strategies for different groups of people, and that was taken advantage of throughout the years, and it's gross, and I don't want it to ever happen to anyone else. You getting to the point where you don't want this to happen to anyone else, where you decided this is not happening to me anymore, and you really take back your power, that's a really brave moment. That's not an easy thing to do. Walk me through that decision. You decide to file a lawsuit and a police report. I was just thinking of little Kylie, right? And her going out to LA and her goals, and, how easy it was to get involved in something like this. And for me, I couldn't think of not speaking out about this situation and allowing other little Kylies to walk in blindly to something like this. And so for me, if I didn't use my voice and speak out about this, I wouldn't be proud of, what I went through. But now, because I'm speaking out, I am proud of what I'm doing. Even though I may have gone through, some crazy things, I'm coming out of it speaking about it, so that way it won't happen to other people. It can inspire other people to maybe even talk about something that they went through that's been swept under the rug. But again, if I stayed quiet about all of this and didn't take my power back and, left that version of little Kylie to go out into LA and, not have any advice from someone who has gone through something like this, I couldn't do that.
You said in the doc that you were fitting a mold that wasn't you. Now on the other side of this, you're relearning who you are. Who is that? Who is Kylie?
Honestly, it's so refreshing to even just be able to say I'm me again. I'm doing what I want to do. I'm focusing on my dance company, the Volts, and I'm really putting all my effort into helping mentor these kids, and that's what I feel I was called to do, is teach and mentor children, and I can do that in the right way because I've been through so much as well.
What do you hope people take away after watching the docuseries, and also what do you hope happens next for all parties involved?
Ooh, that's a big one, because I really hope this is eye-opening to even everyone on Instagram, the fans, the followers. I hope they can really see what is actually going on behind closed doors. It's not just the pretty content videos. There's way more to the story, and that's what I'm hoping they'll be able to see from this documentary and from the interviews and anything else that gets out there. I want them to know what's really going on and not just what it looks to be.